Hi, and thanks for joining me today for GO-10, Get Organized in 10 Minutes a Day. With me, I'm Tiffany Spaulding, and this is GO-10 number 8, and today we are going to talk about your embossing folders. Whether you're got a little, a got a lot, a shoebox full, whatever it is, embossing folders can be challenging on a number of levels. Like many other things, they come in a variety of different sizes. Some of them have accessory pieces and some do not. How do you catalog and organize all of those? We're going to talk about that today. So what are you going to need? It depends whether you're got a little or got a lot, but because the vast majority of embossing folders are just sort of background designs, I'm going to strongly encourage you to use the cataloging system that we're going to talk about today. Whether you use a scrap rack or you end up putting everything in a box by number or whatever, making those catalog impressions is going to be really helpful when you're trying to choose an embossing folder that's going to work for your card or scrapbook page or mixed media project or whatever you're doing. So what do you need? You need your embossing folders. You need some kind of paper, and you know what I'm going to use? I am going to use, so you've seen this over and over again, right? This is some multi-seasonal paper or all seasons paper, I guess, that's just white. That one has a rip in it already, but just white on the back. Well, I think the front of it's kind of ugly, and I'm never going to use it. I don't know why I bought it, but yeah, I do know I bought it because I had a 40 off coupon at Michael's, and I needed to spend it on something, and so that's what I did. I spent it on paper. Okay, but I'm going to be able to use the back of it. So you're going to need some kind of, and I'm going to recommend thin white paper. I'm using 12 by 12. You could use 8.5 by 11 if that's what you've been making your catalogs on. So some kind of paper, and oh, joy of joy, I got to buy a brand new box of crayons for this project, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those as well. So first step is going to be to take all of those embossing folders that you've got and sort them out by size, right? This is what we've done with a lot of things, kind of get them going by size here. Now, the thing about embossing folders is they come with, some of them come with this little packaging. This one's ripped, so it's not a very pretty example, but the packaging sometimes shows you what that embossing folder is going to look like when it's done, right? It gives you an impression of what that's going to look like. So these are just paper. The packaging was just paper. Some of them have packaging that's more like a cardboard, right? So I cut the packaging off so I could have a good example of what that looked like. And with these, I just ran it through the Xyron and stuck it on there, and it worked fine. I tried running this through the Xyron and sticking it onto the embossing folder as well, but because it's a little bit thicker, it's like a cardboard. When I ran it through the embosser, I had a flat square where none of the little flowers showed up on that card that I had embossed. So if it's thick at all, you cannot adhere it to the top of the embossing folder, but I do have a little solution for what you can do in that situation. So this one, same kind of thing, right? Is the little cardboard piece. I just used some Scotch tape, and I just stuck that cardboard piece to the front so I could see what it's going to look like, but it's hinged. So when I run it through the embossing machine, I can flip that back and run the card through and then just flip it back over. But it does give you a really quick visual of what that's going to look like when it's done, even though this one's kind of small. So your first step is to go through and sort of organize your embossing folders by size. So that's going to be my first mission. So if you bear with me for just a minute here, I'm going to get those embossing folders all kind of situated and organized by size into some piles here on my desk. So bear with me for just 1 second. Now, I've got all of my embossing folders sorted basically by size. My next step is to catalog them before I put them away. My initial idea, of course, was to make impressions by running these all through my embossing machine and maybe making multiple impressions for things that would fit in multiple categories, just like we did with the punches, right? Super simple, not too time consuming, 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch, whatever you needed. I thought I'll just do the same things here. But it's not that simple with embossing because every different brand requires a different sandwich for a different embossing machine. And I got so frustrated and I thought, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I don't know something. So I go down to Karen's office and I asked her. She does a lot of embossing. She's a great card maker. She makes beautiful things. Is there a trick? Am I missing something? Is there something I don't know? And I brought with me, I said, here, the recipe for this said, the instructions said, use this platform and this mat and this platform and that will work. But it didn't work. It wasn't making a good enough impression. So I took that downstairs and I said it to her, and then I said, and then I tried to add this. This is my next thinnest platform, but it's too thick. What am I doing? I've tried every sort of combination. And she said, oh, well, you just have to invent your own shims to make those things work. And she looks under her desk and she goes into her recycle bin and she says, here, try this. Here's a little piece of scrap, kind of a chipboard thing that's lightweight. And, oh, and a piece of junk mail. Try that because they're thinner than this, but a little bit thicker. And guess what? It worked. The pink platform, the rubber mat, the raspberry platform, the thin piece of chipboard, and the junk mail was the perfect thickness to make that impression. And I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. I can't go around rummaging in the garbage or the recycle bin to find the perfect shims. There's got to be a better way, a way to make it easier to actually do all of this. And so, what I came up with was so much more fun because I got to go out and buy myself a brand new box of 64 Crayola crayons, which was a fun excuse. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of creating, running those things through, I'm going to just make quick rubbings of each of these embossing folders. Right now, you can use either side to make the rubbing. So let me just show you what happens with these party hats, right, really quickly. Now, darker colors, here's my tips from going through and cataloging all of my embossing folders. Darker colors work better than lighter colors when you're doing it, right? I tried some lighter colors. I thought it would be really fun to make kind of a rainbow. It doesn't take very long. We can see how fast it comes. Now, and you can do the whole embossing folder, right, and kind of go around the edge and get that whole sense of the edge of the embossing folder. Or you could just do a small part of it if you don't need to see the whole thing. Like, obviously this is party hats, right? Do you really need to see the whole 4x6 of what that's going to look like? Now, this rub gave me the opposite of what the picture is on the package. If you want to see what it looks like the same as the picture on the package, you're going to rub the opposite side. It was better for me to use two colors. It gave a better impression. You just see it better, I guess, the two different colors. But now you have both the positive and the negative. So if you want to see both sides of it, you can do it both ways. Otherwise, it's probably best to do it, the representation that you are most likely to use. But either thing is going to give you that idea of what that looks like, and it's easy to see, right? Much easier to see than just a bunch of clear plastic templates all stacked up where it's hard to see exactly what that is. Now, because of the method of doing this, I've chosen to do all my embossing folders on individual sheets. They're going to go right in the catalog with everything else, which you'll see. Now, I've already, in terms of storing them, I just can't, I sort of racked my brain. I know I like to give you guys multiple options for storage. This is obviously a birthday thing. It's birthday party hats. You're probably not going to use it anywhere else. So it's easy to take this, and if you're using the little boxes or whatever, to throw this right in with birthday, and this one that says make a wish right in with birthday. But the vast majority of embossing folders are non-specific. They're borders and backgrounds and designs and that kind of thing. So I'm really going to recommend the Flip and Storage page for these guys, or we have a couple of other different storage pages that fit these as well, so that you can create a book of embossing folders. Now, I'm going to integrate them right into everything else, right? That's how I am, right? Like, the more stuff I can keep together, the more likely I am to see it, and the more likely I am to use it. So this birthday embossing folder is going to go right here in a Flip and Storage page, and I've already pre-numbered my pages, and this pocket is F7. Now, on the Flip and Storage page, there are 6 pockets on the top that are 4x6, and there are 5 pockets on the bottom that are 5x7. So this one is going to go into pockets, like I said, already pre-numbered, F7, which is a 5x7 pocket. I'm going to put it in the bottom, and then I can write right on my example sheet here, F7, and I know what pocket that birthday embossing folder is going to be in. Now, like I said, you can do the whole design, or you could just do little bits of each design to give you an impression of what that design might look like. I also mentioned that the vast majority of these templates are actually just sort of background designs, right? That could work almost anywhere. Let me just get all of these cataloged, and then you can tune back in, which is just going to be a few seconds for you while I do all this work. And I'll show you what it all looks like when it's stored in the catalog system with the scrap rack. I think you're going to love it. Okay, so I thought I was just going to be able to kind of scribble this way, but my OCD kicked in, and I thought that is just going to bug me when everything doesn't line up, or there's no definition there, or whatever. Some people that won't bug them. I'm a little bit more OCD than artist, and so what I did was I always use this mat this on my workspace, and it's just got the grid lines on it. So I just took my paper and just gridded it off into 12 little sections, right? So now I can just do an impression within the section. This embossing folder, the packaging was the full-size design, which is really nice, right? So, but again, it was a little bit cardboard. So I did cut this out, and I'm going to put it in the pocket with the actual embossing folder. So I do have that visual in the pocket as well. It always gets worse before it gets better, doesn't it? I've got all this mess going on, but I am so happy with the progress that I'm making, and it's so much fun. Coloring is fun. Well, I'm back. My box is empty, my desk is clean, my embossing folders have been cataloged and organized and put away. So let me show you what that looks like. First step is the catalog, right? Now you've seen this process a couple of weeks in a row, so you know exactly what it looks like. But basically what I've done this week is I've taken examples of my embossing folders and I've added them into the sections that they most likely belong in. So this first section, borders and backgrounds, I didn't do the whole embossing folder. I just did enough to give me an idea of what it looked like. And in each little square, you can see there's a little blue number, which indicates where I'm going to find that particular embossing folder. Most embossing folders are borders and backgrounds for the most part. There are some themed ones. We'll see that as well. But I've got all the different ones here, and then I've also made a second set here of borders. And on this side, a question that keeps coming up is people ask me, what do I do with my Anna Griffin things, or what do I do with my Tim Holtz things? So I've incorporated all of these into borders and backgrounds because that's where they are, but I also made an Anna Griffin section. So if you're interested in a particular designer, or you think you like to look for things by designer, here's a Tim Holtz section, right? So you can do both things. It's just like making those extra punches when we did the punches, or the extra stamps when we did the stamps. If you want to include something in multiple categories or create specific categories, Anna Griffin, Tim Holtz, you can go ahead and do that exact same thing with your embossing folders, right? So another thing with embossing folders that we see a lot of are frames, and so I added some of those to my frames section, right? Super simple. Now if I want to find those, it's as easy as going to the number that's indicated in the square. So this little Tim Holtz old-fashioned car is in number 8113. So here we are with our catalog, again with the numbers down the side. I'm going to go to section 8. I'm going to flip to the section that has 113. And then I'm going to find right here that Tim Holtz car embossing folder. So I've got all kinds of goodies in here now, including my embossing folders. They're just organized the same way by that number, so they're easy to find. Now, we also have 4x6 and 5x7 embossing folders. If you don't have a lot of those, you could use the fantastic 5-page, but that only actually holds 4 pockets per page. So what I like to use for the 4x6 and the 5x7, which are the more common shapes of embossing folders, is our flip and storage page. And I've got a couple of those loaded up here. So when I find an example of an embossing folder that starts with the letter F, I know I'm going to find that in the flip and page section. And so you can see here, this is F1 through 11. That one was numbered by hand. This one is F12 through 22, and I numbered that using my little label making machine, so it's a little bit tidier looking. Now, once I flip back the cover, there I've got all my embossing folders, and I can just flip through to find the one that I want. So this one, F17, in this pocket, I'm going to find 4, 1, 2, 3, and the big one in the back, 4 embossing folders. This is a set, so I kept them all together, right? I'm probably going to use them together, but all of them I just grouped together and I put them into one pocket. I gave these the numbers F17, A, B, C, and D, and I will find representations of all of those when I go into my catalog and look in, I know they're in frames, but they're also in borders. So here are the border representations of those borders, and when I go to the frames section, shapes and frames, here they are again. I've represented them right here as well. Now I also made representations of other things like we discussed, so just quickly I'll show you. If I go to my travel section, I'm a little too far already. If I go to travel, I'm going to see this embossing folder example. It's a little embossing folder that says postcard from Tim Holtz. If I go back to themes B and into the birthday section, then I'm going to find, oops, if I knew how the alphabet worked, that would be a lot better. Birthday, there we go. So here in the birthday section, and now I've got that example of the birthday hats and another little embossing folder that was Make-A-Wish. Both of them, this is in F7, flip in pocket number 7, and this is in the 12 pocket page, pocket number 12-8. So just really simple, right? We're following that same pattern that we've been following. It's very consistent. It makes it really easy. It was a great excuse to get to buy a new box of crayons. Now with the crayons, just a little tip with those. When you first start, they have that sharp point, and it doesn't work very well to kind of rub over the embossing folder. So if you take it just a second and just rub it on a piece of paper to kind of make that edge flat, then it's going to make a prettier, rub when you do it. So that was one of the things that I learned. One of the other things that I learned was not to wear something with sleeves that bang, because if I had if I had that embossing folder sticking out over the edge and my sleeve caught it as I rubbed, it shifted the embossing folder underneath the paper and it messed up my pretty design. So wear a short sleeve or roll your sleeves back so they don't bang in when you're doing those rubs. So now we've got, I didn't even count how many embossing folders, but I know in this, just in here alone, there's 22 pockets, but there are over 30 embossing folders in here, plus all of the ones that I have in my regular catalog as well, my regular 1 through 12 catalog as well. So tons of embossing folders, super easy to find now. Now, with your embossing folders in the flip and storage page, you can put this right on your scrap rack. In fact, I'm going to put it on our organized only space scrap rack before our little video is over today. But some people like to keep their embossing folders separate, not on their scrap rack. Some people have scrap racks just dedicated to embossing folders. But you can also store this really easily in the create and carry binder. So if you've got a create and carry binder and you want to keep your embossing folders separate, this will actually hold 2 to 3 binders full of embossing folders. You can see here I've just got, the 2 pages in there and still just tons of room in there. But now I've got all my embossing folders together in one spot, and easy to store and easy to put away. So if for some reason you don't want to put your embossing folders on your scrap rack, you can pop them right into your create and carry binder and store them there. You know me, I like to have everything together just within arm's reach. So let's add all this to our organized only space, shall we, and see what that looks like this week. Come on over. Okay, so here we are in our organized only space at the end of week number 8. And what have we added this week? We added all those embossing folders. So we've got the representations of borders and backgrounds and themed embossing folders in our catalog. And we can easily find whichever embossing folders we need by flipping through the sections and finding the coordinating pockets. And now we can use our embossing folders. Super simple, it looks good, it's pretty, all those colors, and it was a great excuse to get to buy a new box of color crayons, right? Thanks so much for joining me for GO-10 number 8, Get Organized in 10 Minutes a Day, number 8, Embossing Folders. I look forward to talking with you again next week.